my angels. I hope that you guys are having an absolutely amazing morning, afternoon, night, whatever it is for you. Today's video is one that I have been super excited to share with you guys ever since I was staying at the Stanley Hotel and encountered this very strange experience. As I'm sure you guys can see from my Stanley Hotel series thus far, the Stanley Hotel is not only full of so much energy, but so much history and so many incredible, terrifying, and just overall fascinating ghost stories. Looking back on the footage just really makes me want to return there and just investigate it even further, because it's one of those places that the more you investigate, the more you want to learn and the more you want to know about it. And I'm kind of at that point right now where it's like, I just want to go back and see what on earth is really going on there. Today's video, though, is to do with the incredibly famous room 217 at the Stanley Hotel. And it's one of the things that you guys have been requesting so much ever since I started the series, was you guys were asking me, Hailey, did you have an experience near room 217? When you went into room 217, did you experience anything in there? Did you sense anything? Did you see anything? Did anybody else? And I am here to let you guys know that based off of an experience one night at the hotel, we are fairly certain that there is something in that room. 100%. In summary, I want to read you guys a quick little paragraph that I found online basically detailing the overall history of room 217. Now, you guys actually heard a good little percentage of this, or a good little chunk of this, when we were on the tour, and I showed you guys the whole haunted tour led by Frankie, but I'm going to read it to you guys right now just to refresh your memory and kind of preface what we're about to talk about in the footage that I'm about to share with you. So this says, room 217, perhaps the most famed spot in the Stanley Hotel. This is where horror writer Stephen King spent the night and got the inspiration for his 1977 bestseller, The Shining. You can soak up the same Rocky Mountain views that King got while he stayed there. And added amenity, the room has a library of King novels. When King and his wife arrived at the hotel, it was closing down for the season, and they were the only overnight guests staying there. They ate dinner in an empty dining room while pre-recorded orchestra music played before retiring to their room on the spacious and eerily empty second floor. King woke up that night to a terrifying dream about his 3-year-old son being chased through the corridors and screaming. King jerked out of bed, realizing it was a dream. He lit a cigarette on the balcony, and the plot for his now famous book shaped up. The room is thought to be haunted by Elizabeth Wilson, aka Miss Wilson. She was the hotel's head housekeeper, and during a storm in 1911 was injured in an explosion as she was lighting the lanterns in room 217. She survived, though broke her ankles, and her spirit seems to be a regular in the room. This part really gets me, guys. Listen. Guests have reported items moving, luggage unpacked, lights being turned on and off. Oh, and Miss Wilson is old-fashioned. She doesn't like it when unmarried guests shack up together, so some couples have reported feeling a cold force come between them. One of the biggest myths about the room is that it's never available. Not true. You can actually book it and stay there, if you dare. So obviously, Stephen King got his inspiration for The Shining while staying in that specific room. And obviously, ever since then, that room has been a paranormal hotspot, or at least a hotspot for paranormal investigators. So, naturally, the minute that any of us got to the Stanley Hotel, everybody was curious about room 217, the history of it, the haunting of it, and what really lay behind those doors. To be honest with you guys, when I first got to the hotel, I didn't initially rush to the outside of room 217, primarily because I figured over the course of the couple of days that I'd be there, at some point or another we'd have a haunted tour where I'd be able to stand outside the door, really hear the history of it, and film it at that point in time. However, a lot of people who had came there for the same event that I was at started saying that whenever they stood outside of room 217, they'd hear like knocking, or it seemed as though that somebody from the event that we were there for was maybe inside of the room playing tricks, that they literally rented out the room to scare people on the outside of the room. Because everybody kept saying something along the lines of hearing knocking, hearing tapping, like hearing the door creak open. And I kept hearing this over the course of the first bit of being there. People saying that they just went outside the door, They would hear knocking, and it almost felt like someone in there was messing with the people on the outside. So there was a little bit of a rumor going around that people from the event that we were at were staying in that room to scare people who would get curious and go and scope it out. Here's where things get really creepy, you guys, but really freaking interesting. So, okay, where do I start with this? All right. So the one night that we were there, we were all on scheduled ghost tours, and there were so many of us at this particular event that they put us into separate groups. I believe it was 2 groups per number category. So like group 1 had 2 separate groups, group 2 had 2 separate groups. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it went up to group 4. And I was in group 2. So everybody's in their like little groups getting ready to go on this tour. Everybody's really excited. We don't really know what to expect. The first group goes off and we commence our like second tour for us, or my first tour, but the second group tour that I was on before that group comes back. They kind of had it timed and scheduled that they'd be looping back as we're kind of beginning. So we just headed out and got our tour started. Now, as you guys saw in the footage of that tour, as we went up to the outside of room 217, interestingly enough and coincidentally enough and phenomenally enough, the couple was just checking in to room 217. They literally just went in a few moments prior to us coming up to have our tour. And they kindly enough allowed us to go inside of the room and kind of take a peek at it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I will obviously insert it, when I ask them if they've had any experiences, they say that they just got there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you, I appreciate that. How long have you guys been staying here?
Oh, we just came in.
Just got here?
Yeah.
Ooh, I was gonna ask if you've experienced anything.
Oh gosh.
Right. Seems harmless, doesn't seem that creepy. You guys are probably like, Hailey, get to the point. What's so creepy about this? Well, we finish our tour, we go back down to the main area where everybody kind of was, and a couple people that I'd become acquainted with from the first tour come rushing over to me and they're like, Hailey, did the door of 217 like open and close really terrifyingly when you guys were outside of it? We think that said event is trying to scare us all. And immediately I'm like, what are you talking about? No, we got to go inside of room 217. And they're like, what do you mean you got to go inside of room 217? And I was like, yeah, the people had literally just checked in. And when I tell you guys just checked in, I obviously avoided it when I was filming for privacy reasons. But when we went into the room, they'd had their luggage just propped up, like they'd literally just checked in. And I was like, they just checked in, and they were so nice to like open the door and see what was going on outside of it, and so kindly allowed us to come in and kind of take a peek at the room. And they were like, oh, wait. So what you're telling me right now, Hailey, is that prior to you guys getting up to that section, nobody was staying in the room. And I'm like, well, that's, to my understanding, that's what I've interpreted from this, considering they said they just checked in and we had literally just gotten there and their luggages were there and they allowed us in and they still had their coats and like everything on from getting in the room. That's when somebody proceeded to tell me that someone from their tour had footage of when they were at that point of their tour. That person went up to the door, was kind of filming the door, and as they shut off the camera and went to turn around, they heard like knocking. And when they turned back around, the door to room 217 was open, but it was pitch black inside of it. And as he's filming, the door proceeds to shut.
So I'm filming the door, and when I'm leaving, I hear like a knock, and I'm like, what the fuck? So when I turn back around, the door's open, and it's pitch black in there. And then, like, we're like, oh shit, like, what the fuck? And like, I'm like screaming and doing all types of weird stuff. Then the door like slowly closes back by itself.
Just for reference, guys, group 1,
Group
right
1.
here.
Yeah, C1.
Group 2,
1.
right here.
1.
So it's legit.
Yeah, it's legit. It's legit.
It's haunted.
Yeah.
Something like that. Now, what's terrifying about this is a couple of things, you guys. Number 1, nobody was in the room at the time of that footage being accumulated for them. How do I know this? Because, like I said, we were delayed after this tour. They left, we chilled out there for probably like 35, 45 minutes or so, and then we started our tour. And it might have even been a different time frame than that, but we were definitely waiting for a while. We had a couple drinks, we were hanging out, and they were already on their tour. When we finally made it to that point of the tour, they were just checking in, which means that nobody would have been in there. Secondly, the people that I met, like when we were in that room, did not seem like people that were trying to mess with the tour outside. In fact, they opened the door out of curiosity, apologized, and when we all said, no problem, your room's fascinating, they offered to allow us in. They were like, yeah, check it out, like we just got here. So why would they have messed with the previous tour by opening and closing the door, and for what purpose? And number 3, the people from the event that took us there told me flat out that they were not allowed and were not going to tamper with any effects, paranormal doings, or anything of those sorts while on any tour or while on that couple of day excursion. They said any experience that you are being told of, anything that you are experiencing is 100% factual. So here's what confuses me. How is it possible that people have been saying prior to these tours that there was knocking on that door, that even some of them said they heard the door like creaking open, and then on group number 1's tour, the door opens and closes for them in a very eerie way with a pitch black interior. But our group, group 2, met the people who had just checked in, knowing that nobody's allowed to do effects. Like the argument could be that prior to that, somebody had went in the room and played a trick on the first group. But nobody's allowed to do effects. In fact, my tour guide, Frankie, our fellow Reese's Pieces, told me that we're not even supposed to go in the room. So why would they have played that prank on the first group and not anybody else, if that was the case? I don't know, you guys. It's so chilling to me, and the fact that like I can evidently show you guys his camera and show that I was group 2, he was group 1, like this was legit to all of us. People were like shook for the whole trip at the fact that group 1 and group 2 had polar opposite experiences, both of which validating each other's experiences. We validated that what they experienced wasn't a prank. They were literally asking me, Hailey, did the door open and close at room 217 for you guys too? Because we're starting to think it's rigged. But no, it wasn't rigged. And I actually believe that room 217 is haunted. Well, you guys, that is my experience with room 217 at the Stanley Hotel. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this series. I love going to places that are notoriously haunted and sharing them with you guys. If there's anywhere in particular you guys want to see me go, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, that is it for today's video. If you guys are new to my channel or you're just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my videos, make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until tomorrow, I love you guys.